Hi, I am your host, Leonette Talley, and you are listening to Virago 24/7. Virago is Latin for female warrior, and 24/7 is for all day, every day. Virago 24/7 is a weekly podcast that brings diverse women together to talk about life and our experiences in this world. We share our views on self-love, mental health, marriage, children, friendships, and really anything that needs to be talked about. Here, you will find everyday growth, everyday healing with everyday warriors. Just give me my space to move. 'Cause it's my thoughts, what I want, and I want what I want. Hello. I always try to figure out a new way of starting the show, but hello is always what comes to my mind. So boring, so generic. But hello, everybody. Virago has hit the road, and I actually brought my equipment, and the acoustics here are so much better than there are in my she cave. But I brought my microphones and my equipment, and we are in Tybee Island, Georgia, in our new condo. And I have my partner in crime here, Felipe.
Hey, beautiful people.
Hello. How can I start my show by, in a very exciting way? I'm always like, hello. That's so boring.
Hey, that's you, though.
That's all I got.
I mean,
Wait,
boring.
You guys heard that.
It's you. It's your personality.
I gotcha. Yes.
You be you.
Yes.
Don't worry about being somebody else.
I thought you were calling me boring because
that's the last thing you are.
Just what yesterday or the day before, I was like, you were laughing at me and I said, I got to keep you on your toes. And you called me crazy. And I said, yes, I am, because we got to keep things exciting. So I got to bring the crazy out because it's like a sneak attack. Mm-hmm. I don't want you to get bored with me, Felipe.
Like we said.
I don't need you getting bored with me. So anyways, we are here away from my she cave, and I like the acoustics here. In the she cave, it is like a cave. So we sometimes have to watch how we talk into the microphone. But today.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's a cloudy day, but we're happy.
Yes. This is our happy place.
This has become my happy place. So anyways, we're here today because we like to talk, and Philip has some things that he wants to bring to Virago. What?
Philip has something to bring to Virago.
Oh, well, okay, fine. Okay, we have some stuff that we want. Listen, we like to talk about marriage. We've done it a few times. And
yeah, actually my first time on here was talking about marriage.
Why are you trying to sound all sexy and stuff?
I mean, that's just my voice.
You brought it a little bit low where you're like, yeah. Wait,
that's my radio voice.
That's your radio voice. All right, let me hear your radio voice, Philip.
Hey, beautiful people.
I'm a lucky lady. I get to hear that voice every day.
Yes, you are. Yes,
actually, I do like that deep voice. Sometimes I'm like, all right, back it up. Say that again. And you get all embarrassed and stuff.
And then I say it again.
And then you say it again. All right. So no, anyways, it's interesting because we've been wanting to talk about, marriage things. Not that we're experts or anything, but, we like to talk about it because, we're going on 18. No, we are at 18, not going on 18. We're going on 19. Oh, damn.
Yes.
Man, September. I'm normally on it. But it's ironic that we've been pushing it off. And I think this is a good time because in your men's group, as we've mentioned before, you're a part of a men's group at a church in our area, at your church, our church. It's a long story, people. It's a long story for another time. But you're a part of a men's group, and you guys are actually talking.
Well, last Friday, we had a men's group discussion on marriage. Mm-hmm. And one of our members does divorce care at our church, and he was the person leading the discussion. And I thought that was perfect because we've been talking about having a discussion on marriage, and then he had us he wanted us to watch a video prior to coming into our men's group that morning. And he requested that you watch the video with your wife. And so we watched the video, you and I, on the 4 Laws of Marriage by Jimmy Evans. And then Robert had a bunch of questions on marriage and divorce. And so I agreed to even answer the divorce questions. Because I told you this morning, sometimes I forget I was married.
We're walking. He's like, we're going to talk about marriage and there's some questions on there, but we can't relate to the divorce questions. So we'll just skip those. And I'm like, you've been divorced. Like you were married before me and there was a whole divorce. And you're like,
yeah, I forget about that. Oh
yeah, I forgot about
I do.
I'm like, do you really?
I do.
You can't do that. You can't forget about your first marriage.
That's true. It's funny because as Robert was going around asking, he asked everyone to, because we have some new members in our men's group. So he asked everyone to say, how many years you've been married, the age of your kids. And so one of the guys said, well, this is my first marriage.
Damn.
And of course we started laughing like, okay, you're about to have a second one. And so then as I was talking, I was like, oh yeah. Because, I was the last person to talk because we went around the table and I happened to be the last person where I was seated. And so I had to think about it. I was like, oh yeah, this is not my first marriage. But yeah, it's not something that I usually think about anyway. So it is what it is.
Well, here we are. All right. Since this is, I know it's my podcast, but I feel like you want to drive this train. I'll take over the wheel when I feel like I need to.
Yeah, like you do in real life. Yes.
I'm going to have you lead, but if you're not driving the train the way I thought you should drive it, I'm just going to take over.
Like you tried to do when we were driving up here.
Okay, listen, Philip. When we were driving here, right, there's a strip. Like, okay, if anybody has ever been to south of Georgia, like you go through Macon. From Macon to Savannah, they're doing a lot of construction. It's been probably the past 15 years, the same kind of construction. And they're making some progress. But there's still some stuff going on. And there's like these concrete barriers and a lot of curves going on this highway. And you were like driving with one arm, drinking from the other, like taking these curves like you a race car driver or something at night in the dark.
And let me clarify.
It was I thought I was holding on for dear life. Like
I was drinking a Red Bull. Because, Lena's like, are you drinking with one hand and driving all crazy? So no, I wasn't drinking.
You were hugging those curves, and I said, listen, I want to make it down to the beach because I've been looking forward to this for the past few weeks. And I'm not ready to like go to heaven yet.
Got it.
So anyways, sometimes I gotta,
be a backseat driver.
Call it what you want. Call it what you want. All right, where are we going to start? We're going to start with some marriage questions.
The 4 Laws of Marriage.
Okay.
Let's talk about that first.
Let's do that. So that's what the video was about.
That was the video. Mm-hmm. So it's 4 Laws of Marriage. And a couple of things that he talked about is the 4 laws. If you follow these 4 laws, it will make sure that your marriage is successful. Okay. You have 100% chance for success in marriage when you do these 4 laws of love, he says.
Okay. So before we get into the laws, do you feel like people get into marriages without really thinking about who they're marrying, and that's why there's a lot of divorce? Or even if you quote unquote pick the one that maybe wasn't meant for you, do these laws, if you follow these laws, could they work? I feel like
that's a very good question.
We get into marriages that with the wrong person. But would these laws work? What do you think?
Would these laws work if you married the wrong person?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
I know. This is why I'm here. Hard-hitting questions. I should be on TV somewhere.
Doing the evening news.
Asking the hard-hitting questions. Side note, we go off track. We've been watching the morning show on Apple TV. with Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston and a bunch of other people. Steve Carell's in there. But yeah, I feel like, man, that was my path. But then I'm watching this show. I'm like, there's a lot of freaking drama behind the scenes, and I don't know if I would have
worked well in that environment.
I was gonna say made it, but I'm like, I could have made it.
Yeah.
I just probably wouldn't have worked well in those environments with these men. Anyways, go on. Side note. Okay, back on track.
But so that's a good question.
Yeah.
Would these 4 laws work with the wrong person? I don't know.
Okay, so in your first marriage, whether we say it was wrong person or not, if you had followed these laws, do you think you would still be married to her?
Oh, that is a very
all right. Well, let's go through the laws and then you can answer the question.
Let me look at that because as I go through the laws, and I'll think about that and then I'll come back and answer your question. So hold me to that.
All right.
So the 4 laws of love for marriage. The first law is this is all coming from Genesis 2:24-25. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. So based on those 2 verses, he came up with the 4 laws of marriage. And the first law is law of priority. A man shall leave his father and mother. If you have to choose, you choose your spouse over family, parents, in-laws, children. Your spouse has priority over family. So that's the first law. And that means the most important person in a relationship in your life is your spouse. Other than your relationship with Jesus, she has top priority over anything else. She comes first. And most of the things that destroy marriages are good things that are out of priority. What do you think of that?
I think that's right. I feel like with us, that's how it is. We love our children. We love our families. But you and I come first above all of that.
100%.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think I already told you this, but as our pastor said at, last Sunday, that he tells his kids all the time, I chose my wife. I was stuck with y'all or something like that. Mm-hmm. So, but and our kids know our number one priority. Not that they're not a priority, but they're going to be gone. Mm-hmm. And this kind of goes to one of the things that we'll talk about, but that Robert brought up was that he said, what do you think out of all these years I've been doing divorce care and all the books that you read, when does a divorce happen?
When the kids are grown.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. When they're out the house.
A lot of them.
He said the majority of the marriages happen then because, the priority has been their kids and now the kids are gone and they really don't know their wife or their husband. And now they're like, who are you? Mm-hmm. You're not the person I married. And I've been devoted, or we've been devoted to our kids, and they've been the number one priority, not us. I still go back to, and I have to thank Carolyn, one of my sisters. That was one of the things she did early on in our marriage was to say, hey, y'all need to have a vacation. Mm-hmm. And like Robert always tells us, a vacation is with your wife.
Yeah. When
you go on a trip with your kids, that's a family trip. That's not a vacation.
It's not.
At all. So we made a priority because Carolyn instilled that in us to go have a vacation once a year, just the 2 of us. And it is definitely the best thing that we've ever done for our marriage.
Yes.
So law of priority. I agree with that 100%. Your marriage, your wife have to be first over kids, over parents, if you have to choose. Hopefully you don't have to. But your marriage has to be your number one priority. All right. So that's number 1. I don't think you have any input on that.
No.
All right. So law of pursuit. And shall cleave unto his wife. And he says that cleave in the original Hebrew means to pursue with all your energy. Cleave means like to climb a mountain. It means to use all your energy for something. So marriage is work. From the very beginning, God told us marriage is work, and it doesn't work unless you work at it. We have this romantic misconception that if I have to work at the relationship, there's something wrong with it. And a lot of people truly believe if I have to work at my marriage, it means I didn't marry my soulmate. Mm-hmm. Tell me, what do you think of that?
Well, even though I believe that we've always said that there's multiple soulmates. So we feel like our souls are super connected, but we still
100%.
have had to
quote
unquote, work on it. But that's the other question is like, because I feel like there's some people that are in marriages that aren't meant to be. And it's just like it's truly working and it's taxing. And it's like, and so people I think it's dangerous to say, oh, marriage is work, marriage is work, marriage is work. And so when people are really, truly working at it, but it's really not going anywhere, they feel like, oh, this is what marriage is.
Work.
And they kind of stay in it.
I get that.
Because that's what the mindset, or that's what has been preached is marriage is work, marriage is work. I think there's a difference.
Well, the difference is if you have to add this one last little sentence to that, but you have to see good results.
Yeah.
You just can't always be working.
Yeah.
And think that because once you see the result, a good result from the work that you put in, then you more have to do it.
I don't know. For some reason, I don't like that phrase, marriage is work.
Right.
Because some people are working hard. Yeah, you're right. And it's not going anywhere.
Because you're not getting results.
But they feel like this is what it should feel like. I feel like, yeah, it's work, but it shouldn't be like taxing on your spirit, on your soul.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, your emotions might be, there's times where I've been crying to you or you've been upset or I've been upset. But deep down, it's not really it's not detrimental to my spirit. It's just that situation. And I know in my heart that this is just something that we have to overcome to pass it. There's a difference between knowing like this is temporary versus like, wow, this is what this person brings out of me is like the sadness or this, this,
again, it's the result.
Yeah.
It's the result that you get.
Just think that's dangerous to always say, oh, it's work, it's work, it's work.
True.
For then the people that are really,
you have to put in some work and be intentional. That's the word I love to use. So
I know we have a lot of conversations about marriage. So I don't remember if I heard this on a podcast, on the radio, if it was in the video, or you and I talked about it, about in our work, we take continuing education classes. Was that with you? Okay. So we take a lot of courses to get better. And then with marriage, it's like, we don't do. Yeah. So what was that was with you, right?
That's how Robert actually opened up the discussion after he asked everyone, how long they've been married. And then he said, well, how many of you at work have to take continuing education courses? And how many of you have to do team building at work? And, do you have to get certifications and upkeep and stuff like that? So, obviously the majority of the guys said, yes, they do. They kept, they rose their hand. So he said, well, this is funny, but all of us are married. So how many of y'all actually take some courses on marriage, read books on marriage? I mean, if you can do this at work, you should be able to do this on your marriage, because it's just not going to just happen just because you wake up every morning that your marriage is going to be amazing. So those were, he made a good point because, not as many hands went up when he asked those questions. How many times did y'all take a course on it? And I think the church had offered one. And one of the guys was like, yeah, the church offered one like a year or two ago. And he said, so I just took one. And another guy in the group was like, yeah, but that really was like 3 or 4 years ago. So, now, that was a great point because, we're married and it's not like something just going to osmosis. You're just going to get better with it.
And I think also, some people, I know we've read books or we've read certain things, but maybe not everyone is into that kind of stuff.
Reading.
But I also think sitting down and just talking. I don't know how I know we do that, but I don't know how common that is for people to really sit down
and talk to each
and
other.
really talk about
The real thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think that happens often?
Of course not.
I don't think so.
That's why
Yeah. You just want to just throw things under and put it in a closet.
Yeah.
Sweep it under the rug. Put it in the couch cushions with the pennies.
Or, put it in a suitcase and keep it there and, still walk around with it. So, and the other things on the law of pursuit says needs of a woman. So a woman needs to have security, open and honest communication, soft, non-sexual affection, and leadership. Needs of a man, honor and respect, sex, friendship, domestic support. What do you think of that?
I agree.
100%.
I agree.
I do too.
1,000%.
And then if you practice the law of pursuit, you tell your spouse, you're first, you're not a burden, you're not a distraction. I love serving you. What do you need? Serving each other is the only way a marriage works. Mm-hmm. Any comment on that?
I mean, it's true. So the times where I feel, yes, for sure. I don't want to speak for all women, but I think the majority of us do want that security. Mm-hmm. And the times where I felt insecure were times where I wasn't feeling like you were showing that. Like I wasn't a priority, that other things were a priority. And I just have to deal with certain things. It is what it is. This is who I am. This is what I do type personality. And so it didn't feel secure. Right. And I acted very insecure. Right. Especially since I'm a confident freaking woman. You made me feel insecure a lot of the times when I didn't feel like I was a priority.
100%. You're right. Definitely.
Yeah. And I think
and you told me that's what you wanted.
Yeah.
But we had those discussions.
Yes. But security. I think a lot of the times you weren't listening to me. You were hearing, but you weren't like truly listening. I feel like in the past few years, I have
finally caught on.
Yeah, I do. Don't you think? Why did it take you so long, Philip? It took you like 15 years.
That's true. I'm a flawed individual.
Yeah.
That's why.
You know what? And I was patient. Don't say that I wasn't.
You were patient.
Don't say that I'm not a patient person, because I was patient. No, I mean, I'm not saying it's all you, but in that realm of me feeling secure, I feel like in the past maybe 4 to 5 years, I really, no, that's too many years. Maybe in the past 2 to 3 years, if I'm being honest with myself, where I feel very secure in who I am. And you've helped with that. But also, to be honest with you, in the back of my head is like, I'm secure, and whatever happens, I feel like in the past I was always like looking, okay,
for the next shoe to drop.
Yes. Got it. And if the shoe drops,
I'm good.
I'm going to be okay.
Right.
And I knew that before, but now I really, truly feel that.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you start to step up. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. You've always been amazing, but
I've been more intentional.
Yes.
That's true. You're right.
Yes.
You're right. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. All right. What's number 3?
Law of partnership.
Okay.
And it says, as they shall be one. So selfishness is the main problem in marriages. Selfishness. Okay. Man, it's hard for me to say that word. Selfishness.
That's okay. I have some words like Worcestershire sauce.
It's the main problem.
And anything that has a T in the middle, like painting, cotton, button. Anything with a T, exactly. I feel like
you
I
have some
can't.
issues with that.
And Worcestershire sauce.
Yes.
But I don't think I'm the only one.
Selfishness is the main problem in marriages. If I'm okay, then you're okay. That's, selfish. Mm-hmm. I need you to be like me. Mm-hmm. Think like me. Make decisions like me. Put away the dishes like me. have the same priorities like me. Okay. I had the dishes part. That's not part of it.
That's not on the list because I was like, ooh, that one.
They hit home, didn't it? Yeah, I know.
I mean, I have a system, and I wish I would love to give a course on how to properly put dishes in a dishwasher. There's a system to make it efficient that most people aren't aware of. You start from the back to the front. The bowls go in certain sections. The plates go in certain sections.
And you just don't throw stuff in there.
Yeah, and I try not to add big items like big pots or pans. I rather wash those by hand so that they don't take up a lot of space in the dishwasher. Anyways, that's a side note.
It is definitely a side
note. If you guys if you need me to come to your home to give a tutorial on how to properly fill a dishwasher efficiently, I'm your girl.
Yeah,
okay.
You're the one.
Yes.
All right. There can be no dominance, no bullying. Dominance means I don't respect you as an equal. Everything has to be my way. Mm-hmm. Partnership means you and your spouse are equals. Everything I have belongs to you. You make all your decisions together. You talk about it, you pray about it, and you come to an agreement. You have to be equal partners for marriage to work. No one can control the relationship. That's the law of partnership. You have to share. Being selfish doesn't work.
All right. What do you think about that? How do we, what grade do we get on this?
Now?
Well, yeah. Well, no. Okay. Sometimes we forget about in 18 years what's happened.
I will say this, and this is what I shared in the men's group, because Robert's like, hey, what did you get from the video? And I said, being selfish. Because, you're dating people up until that point. Obviously, I got married. But prior to that, I think everyone's really selfish when it's just you. So all you think about is yourself and what makes you happy, what pleases you, what are you going to do that day, what are you going to eat? And then when you get married, all of that has to switch, and that doesn't switch or change. Maybe it becomes easy for others, but that was hard not being selfish early on in our marriage. So that was a learning thing. I have to think about, okay, well, what would Leonette want? Or, that's not something that comes natural. I think most people are very selfish people. Mm-hmm. So that was a key part, is you do have to share. And I think you have made me a more generous person. I think that's one of the many things that you have made me be a better person, because I am definitely a lot more generous and not as selfish as I used to be. And that's all because of you.
Oh,
for sure.
That's so sweet.
That's so true. So yeah, selfishness is a big thing, because, you have to surrender.
How have I been selfish in our marriage?
Let me think about that. That's a good question.
You should say, you haven't, Leonette. No. You've always been selfless.
All right, let me think about that.
I'm just curious.
That question. How have you been selfish? That's actually probably one of your many gifts. Because I actually can't think. Well, no.
Oh, you thought of something.
I thought of something.
In 18 years, there's one thing, everybody. What is it?
Because I was reading this. I need to think like me. Make decisions like me. And I don't think like you.
Yeah.
I don't.
Is that selfish?
That is selfish.
Oh, okay.
Because you won't. Because we used to have arguments about.
I know, but the way I think is like the right way of thinking.
Okay. So.
Most of the time, 98% of the time.
Right. It's just that 2%.
That 2%.
That's selfish. So,
the fact that you had to think about it says a lot, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. You win in the court of appeal.
Okay. I have a lot of things to work on, but I try to be selfless when I can. That's why I get so upset sometimes. I'm like, I do everything for everybody else. When is it going to be my time? Like that.
Yes, you're definitely all or none.
That's true.
And there's a lot of
I'm a very dynamic person.
always.
It's either one side or the other.
Everything.
There's no middle.
Never. Yes.
Well, I've gotten better.
Those words.
Hold up. Wait a minute. You've taught me well. I started off that way.
Yes.
I have moments where I'm like, and then I have to stop myself.
It's an opportunity for growth for all of us.
In 18 years of marriage, I've really been aware of the all or none
phrases,
mentality.
Yes.
I don't do that anymore because it's crazy. And then when I hear other people do it, I was like, yeah. It really stands out when you hear other people do it, right?
100%.
I'm like, why are you being so all or nothing, people? And then I have to remember, okay, I used to be like that. It takes time, people. It takes time to work through these issues.
Yeah.
All right.
So the last law.
Number 4.
Law of purity. Adam and his wife were both naked and they felt no shame. Naked means open and exposed. Intimacy can only occur in a relationship where you're careful about what you say and do, and you take responsibility for what you've done wrong. Your spouse will not open up to someone with a smart mouth who is sarcastic, has the wrong tone when they talk. Trust is earned in drops and lost in buckets. It can take a long time to earn and regain a person's trust. When an atmosphere of purity exists, you're careful about what you say and what you do. When you make a mistake, you immediately take responsibility for it and ask for forgiveness. When you can talk with complete safety, this is when true intimacy occurs. Thoughts, Leanette? I know you have a bunch of them on that.
What do you mean?
Or maybe not. I think you just like spaced out while I was talking. I think that's exactly what you did. You were like, whatever.
Can you repeat the question, please?
I said, in marriage, law of purity. In marriage, you are exposed. Trust is earned and dropped and lost in buckets. Be careful in what you do, what you said, and what you did, and what you do. And that, what's that? Your spouse will not open up to someone with a smart mouth. Intimacy can only occur in relationships where you're careful about what you say and do.
Okay, maybe I zoned out because you're really mumbling through that.
Oh, am I?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's just law of purity. Your spouse will not open up to someone with a smart mouth.
I got a smart mouth, and I do have to pay attention to it.
It's all about trust. When you feel like you trust that person,
okay,
then you'll be more vulnerable with them. You'll be more open. And I don't know, you have to be careful about breaking that trust with someone.
I can relate to that very, very, very much. I do have a smart ass mouth, and I realize when I use that smart ass mouth, thinking that I'm, it's a defense mechanism. If you think about it,
sure,
it makes you shut down. So I've had to learn to not use the smart ass mouth, but still be able to speak how I feel, but in a more respectful way.
Sure.
And then I feel when I've done that, I've gotten more out of you than just when I'm being sarcastic. Because
you get a better response.
I feel like that's more my nature. And then with you, me feeling safe enough to bring something up and feel like I'm being heard. Because in the beginning, I would hold that stuff to myself.
True.
It would fester, and then I would
explode,
vomit all over you with my words. And it was because I didn't feel like I could say things in the moment because I didn't want to rock the boat, because in my past experience, not just with like relationships, like romantic relationships, just in relationships in general with family members, anytime I would speak my mind, it would turn into a battle.
Right.
And so I didn't always show that. And then I would look like the crazy person because I would just blow up. Yeah.
Right.
So I think now, after so many years, I can say things in the moment. I feel like you'll respond well. And even if you don't, we can talk about it in a respectful way and keep it moving.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, I can answer that question now.
All right. Which one?
If you
After
with
all
the
these four,
wrong person, the answer would be no.
These don't work.
If
Why do you say
you're with
that?
the wrong person.
Why do you say that?
Because, like I told you before, I made a list with Carolyn on who my soulmate was. Mm-hmm. And then there were deal breakers on that list. Mm-hmm. And one of the deal breakers was that person had to be a Christian. So even if I followed these 4 laws of marriage, there's a couple of them. Well, the whole premise of this wouldn't work because my first wife was not a Christian. So we couldn't even practice some of these things, or I couldn't even practice some of these things. Well, had to be we, because I couldn't be doing it by myself. Mm-hmm. We couldn't even practice some of these things because that's not something she believed in. So no, that wouldn't have worked for me.
For you.
You asked me.
Because
if I practice these 4 things, would our marriage have worked?
Because there are a lot of Christians where there's a lot of marriages where there's 2 Christians and they get divorced.
Get out of here. Yes, so, you're right. You're right.
So I understand your situation, but I don't know if that's across the board.
No. I mean, first, I need to answer it.
Yes, for you.
You did ask that.
It wouldn't have worked for you.
It wouldn't work for me.
Yeah.
But can you be with the right person, the wrong person, practice these 4 laws? I think you could. Mm-hmm. But I think you're just, I mean, a lot of people in marriages, and they live and be with each other, and, they're with the wrong person. They don't get a divorce.
I know, but they're not
completely happy.
They're not happy.
And then they die, and everything's great.
I can't live that way. No.
But a lot of people do that.
I know. And I feel very sad for them.
And if they practice these, would that make their marriage better? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Would they make their marriage better? I think it would make their marriage better.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
If they agree on the laws.
Exactly.
And
they worked on these 4 laws. And maybe they'll fall in love with each other.
Again. Mm-hmm.
Again, or for the first time, or whatever. Mm-hmm. But yes, so I think it could at least save a marriage, even if you're with the wrong person. At least you'll be, happier while you're married to that person if both of you practice these 4 laws, or maybe it will give you more of an idea that that's not the right person. Mm-hmm. Maybe it'll open up your eyes that that's not the right person. But yeah.
Okay, so those are the 4 laws.
Those are the 4 laws.
The law of
purity, law of pursuit, law of partnership, and law of priority.
And if we're aware of these things and work at it as a couple, then we should be good to go.
There you go. Exactly.
I like it.
Exactly.
I honestly, it's like, again, we're not experts, but I feel like it's worked for us. And whether it's interesting because we've done things without really realizing these are the laws of marriage. Like, we never sought out to feel like these are these laws that we're pursuing.
Correct.
But when it's in your face with like a label and a title, then you're like, oh, okay, we've done this.
We've worked through these.
Yeah, we've managed. I don't know how.
With God's help.
I don't know, probably because we got God, and then us, and then everybody else.
There you go.
And it's worked. Anyways, all right. So there's some questions that were given, and now I don't expect you to give details about how other people have answered.
Of course not,
because the men's group is very private,
100%,
and it stays within. It's like Vegas. Whatever happens here stays here.
What happens in the men's group stays in the men's group.
But more of a generalization of how things were answered, so we can learn. We can learn, Mm-hmm. So one of the questions is, why do you believe unresolved conflict is at the heart of most marriage problems and most divorces? Unresolved conflict.
Yes. And that was funny because Robert brought that up about unresolved conflict. Because, you and I even talked about this when we were walking today on the beach. Most people, unfortunately, which is pretty cool because that doesn't happen in our family. When I mean my family, my brothers and sisters, we actually talk about problems. you and I talk about problems. We're better at discussing problems and coming to solutions and agreement for both of us. But if you just let it go, you kind of sweep it under the rug, like you said earlier. You put it away, put it in a suitcase, and never really address the problem. It's not like the problem goes away. And a lot of people don't like conflict. They don't like to have a disagreement. You know, a lot of people say, oh, we never have an argument. That means our marriage is perfect. That tells you really have a problem with your marriage if you never have an argument. And if you don't resolve it, it doesn't mean if you have a bunch of arguments, it means your marriage is perfect and great. But you have to come to some resolution that you both feel good about. Because if you just let it go to bed, and weeks go by, years go by, it's not like the problem went away. It just made it worse, actually.
Do you think we've had that?
No, we've definitely had that. We early on, definitely we had that, and that's when you would blow up.
Well, okay. The next question is, can you agree to disagree on an issue? I don't know if you can. Like, that goes in hand with unresolved conflict.
Because it's unresolved.
You can't agree to disagree.
That's what Robert said.
Yeah.
Like,
he did?
You can't agree to disagree.
I got an A on the test.
Because that is an unresolved conflict. It's still unresolved.
Yeah.
You haven't come to an agreement.
Because we've agreed to disagree, and it festers in me. I can't handle that.
Yeah.
Me personally, I don't know about you, but for me, it doesn't feel good
Especially
to agree to disagree.
if you think you're right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm right a lot, 98% of the times. Remember that.
Yeah, it's at 2%. Yeah, so yes, unresolved conflict is the number one reason that divorces happen. And the funny thing that Robert brought up, he said, I just did this recently because he has divorce care, I think once or twice a year. He's been doing this for over 15, 20 years. And he said that out of the number of years married, 80% of the people were married over 15 years, 10 to 15 years. It wasn't like, oh, I've been married for 2 years or 3 years. The majority of them, most of the people in the divorce care have been married
for a long time.
So
that means they've
just dealt with it.
Yeah.
They've had a lot of unresolved conflict.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. You got to work
or it's resolved and they're just on different pages and it is what it is.
Sure. That's why they're divorced.
This is where I stand and this is where you stand.
Yeah.
And
we're not going to agree to disagree. We're just going to separate.
Yeah.
We're going to end this relationship. So yeah, unresolved conflict is huge because if you don't actually have that discussion and communicate, as what do they say? The biggest problem with any relationship is communication or lack thereof. So you have to communicate to get through that unresolved conflict. You can't just let it go. You let it go, then it just festers. And I think I got this from Carolyn.
She's so wise.
She is so
Everything
wise.
you got was from Carolyn.
Oh, then I got a lot of things from her.
Carolyn.
Because I remember her saying, a lot of times people, because, Carolyn used to do a little quasi marriage counseling. And she did that with a lot of my friends, some of her friends, and she's really good at it. So I remember, you know how people say they were take all this baggage from one relationship to the other.
Yeah.
But, pretty soon you keep adding things to your baggage, you're going to have suitcases. And that's a lot of unresolved conflict. And sometimes it's when you're going from relationship to relationship with this and you never resolve it, sometimes it's personal unresolved conflict within yourself that you haven't resolved or, come to any type of resolution.
Yeah. I don't know how we get through all that. Maybe some counseling, or you just got to sit down over a nice dinner and just hash it out.
Probably a little bit of both.
That's what we do.
Yes.
And sometimes this is what I've found. One conversation may not
No, multiple.
Resolve it. And
It depends on the problem. Exactly.
It does. And also sometimes it may not happen that year or the next year. And I have found that with certain things with us. Mm-hmm. Some things are like boom, boom, boom. We talk about it. We get on the same page. Other times it's been a few years where it's kind of that situation goes into the next year, into the next year, into the next year.
Right.
So it may not happen right away.
As long as you agree to keep having that conversation.
Yeah.
You know, like I always said, marriage is a commitment to grow together.
There's one thing that it always will stand out for me with the two of us, where we were having the same conversation about, and we've talked about this in the men's panel, where you were holding on to friendships of women that you were dating, had sex with, whatever the case may be. You held on to them as friendships.
Right.
And so that was a constant argument of ours.
Yes.
There was one day, and I remember so vividly, and I don't remember what it was, but it probably was around something like that. And you were about to leave. We were in our bedroom and you were about to like storm out. Mm-hmm. And something, I can see it. I still even remember it. I think something went off in your mind. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there like so sad and crying and oh my gosh, this is just not going to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. We've been talking about the same shit for years and you're just still doing the same shit and I'm feeling the same way.
Right.
You stopped before you left. Mm-hmm. You turned around. Mm-hmm. You sat down facing me. You grabbed my hands. It was eye to eye, face to face. Mm-hmm. And you're like, basically like, I want to listen to you.
Right. That
was a turning point.
Yeah. I remember that.
That was a turning point for me.
I remember that.
Because I'm like, if you had left, it would have just been the same old shit.
Yeah. We would have been repeating the process.
But you sat, you held my hands, you looked me in the eyes, and I'll never forget that. And we talked. I felt heard. God. I felt heard.
Yeah.
I felt like, okay, he sees me. Mm-hmm. And that was the beginning of where we are today. And I think that was maybe, I don't know, 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
That was powerful.
Yeah. I had to be I was just God saying, hey, you're making a mistake right now. Mm-hmm. You're being stupid. You know what? That goes back to being selfish. Mm-hmm. Being selfish. And so
it stopped you. It stopped you in your tracks. And I'll never forget that moment.
It definitely was it. And,
I was like, if you had walked away.
It was like you need to fight.
Yeah.
That was And so when that happened.
Why are you getting emotional?
No, because it took me back to that place.
Yeah.
And you know what happened for me to do that, because it's something.
You're ready to walk out that door.
It's something when it goes beyond you.
Yeah.
And you have to, I don't know, it was because that was not planned, obviously. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to turn around and, you know, that's
you opened the door and you were going out the door.
That's TV.
Yeah.
I was gone.
Yeah, you were out of there.
And I don't know, it was like a barrier at that door that and something in my head, it was just like a switch. And, you know, for people that believe, that's God. Mm-hmm. That's God that made me turn around and sit down. And yeah, I know exactly.
You remember that moment?
I remember that moment like it was yesterday.
Really? Because I remember it too. And I don't think we've talked about it since today.
Maybe that's why.
We haven't talked about it since today. Yeah.
Because that was true. That was pure. That was honest. That was transparency. That was just. Because I think in my immature self, I would have left.
Yeah.
And but at that moment, something said to me, you need to stop. You need to, this has to end.
Yeah. Because we're talking about the same shit over and over.
Yeah. This is your soulmate. This is the person that you love with everything in your heart. And you need to make sure she knows that she's a priority.
Yeah.
And stop being selfish.
Yeah.
And So
that was the moment.
That was.
I feel, and that was what, I don't know. We were married 15, 16 years. No, more than that. Like Like it was
15, 16 years. So,
Yeah.
that's that category that
Yeah.
Robert said, that's around that time people get divorced.
Yeah. It was around that time where I'm like, all right, he finally sees me. He hears me. He gets it.
Yes.
And we can work from this.
Yeah.
If you had walked out and been like, this is your issue, because you had told me that before, this is your insecurity.
it's
This
your
is your
problem.
issue.
This
is your problem. You need to get over it.
that.
Yeah.
You need to grow up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be more mature.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more like I need to work on myself. And yes, I do need to work on myself,
I
but
didn't take any responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that whole process. So, but it takes a lot. That's not
It
something
does. It's a powerful thing when a person
when
can
people
do that.
see us now and make comments, positive comments.
Yeah, it's positive stuff, but they don't realize.
Yeah, you have to go through. It is a commitment to grow together because you can't grow by yourself. You can't improve on your own. I mean, you can, but your partner has to be willing to improve and grow too.
Yeah.
So, you have to admit when you're wrong. You have to take responsibility for those times. And I'll tell you what, my most favorite, one of my best times in my life that I can say, and I said this before in the podcast, when you told me you're 100% trust me.
Well,
that was groundbreaking for me.
Because it was after that moment. So it's interesting because we've been married for 18 years. So when you say 15, that means that the past 3 to 4 years is when we are really not that we were not in sync before, but there was unresolved issues.
Yeah, because we had great moments, we had great times. Like we said, we went on vacations and loved each other.
Yeah, but there was still underlying things. So that conversation, and then I was like, all right, I have to let go of certain insecurities. And then that's when I was like, I'm over all of this. And I trust you 100%, because I never had said that. Because I don't trust anybody 100%.
Right.
I don't care who you are. I'm very skeptical of the world, of people. Right. I don't see people for who they are up front. Mm-hmm. That's just the way I'm built. Mm-hmm. And I used to feel like it was a flaw or something's wrong with me, but I feel
instincts. Trust your
instincts. It is. It's an instinct thing. And so for me to say that I trust you, also it's a growth within me, because it's like, oh, you know what? If he, for whatever reason, screws up in any way, that's not on me.
Right.
And so that's leading into this next question. And I think this is where a lot of my insecurities lie. How do affairs get started? How do I protect myself from getting into an affair?
Right.
That's where if I'm going to be honest, that's where a lot of things are, because I think I'm pretty freaking amazing. However, I know that I'm not that special that someone can't, you can't step out on me. That could be an
insecurity. Correct.
Why that's been an insecurity of mine, I don't know, but it's been very deep rooted. And we got married when I was 25. So it wasn't like I had this huge dating history where I had a ton of baggage. So,
but the person that you were with and had was Father Caitlin.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what he did.
Well, I don't know. There's no proof. Deep down, there's no proof. But deep down, I think there was something going on with others. But yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, what's the question again?
How do affairs get started? And how do I protect myself from getting into an affair?
Multiple reasons. But I think the biggest one is not making your marriage a priority. Not putting yourself in situations that you have to make choices like that. Mm-hmm. So it's when you get so comfortable that you're like, I don't have to date my wife anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't have to buy her flowers just because, or when we get off rhythm is when we haven't been dating each other. Mm-hmm. When we're not, that year we didn't have our vacation. Mm-hmm. That was a bad year for us because we chose not to do it. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't fun.
Yeah.
So when we can get back to us, that's always a great time. And I think for these last 4 or 5 years, we've had a lot of mini vacations, 1 week vacations like we're doing this weekend. We're here, kids are home, and we have people, watching them, and Kaylin's there. So that's very helpful for most of the weekend. And, but this is like, I don't know. I love being here in Tybee, but I love being here in Tybee with you more than anything. So this is my peace. This is my happy place. And so if you can't have that and you kind of get used to just the routine and life, and because life and the world is just so,
it's going to suck you up.
Yes.
Spit you out.
And then that's when the devil gets in. That's the thing about it. The devil knows you better than you know yourself sometimes. So he knows what things he can do to entice you or make you feel like, yeah, this didn't happen and you need to do this, you need to do that, make you feel better. And someone says something to you. And so then, yeah, you get caught up in that craziness. You definitely do.
Well, yeah. Setting up barriers for sure around you.
Yeah. Boundaries. And having, saying, hey, I'm not going to put myself in this situation that I have to make a decision. Or,
And I think sometimes we think, oh, we're stronger than that. So,
big time.
So I'm not going to get sucked into that.
Yeah. It's not going to be me.
Yeah, that's not going to be me. Yeah.
That was my whole thing in my first marriage was that, first of all, I'm not going to get divorced. All my brothers and sisters were divorced and remarried, more than one, some of them. So it's like, oh, that's not going to happen. And the crazy thing about it is when I met my other brother, Keith, he had been divorced. This is his second marriage. And man, he has a wonderful wife. And yeah, it's just crazy that we have all had that same pattern. And yeah, so that was weird. And at the time I thought, oh, that's kind of weird because, our parents never got a divorce, but thank Keith because my father wasn't faithful. Yeah. Yeah. Which just shook my whole foundation. So yeah, that's, obviously that's when you have that unresolved conflict, that's when,
it's easier for you maybe to
step out.
Yeah.
It's easy for you to have an affair. It's interesting. Because that person superficially fulfills something.
Yeah. You're not doing life with them.
Right.
It's like imaginary. It's
like TV.
Yeah.
It's just a fairy tale.
Yeah. It's an escape.
It's definitely an escape. So for me, I'd rather escape with you to somewhere that's like anywhere, really. Doesn't matter where we go. Even that one time year that we just did a staycation. The kids went away.
They did go away.
And
thank you, family, for always helping out.
Yes.
On both sides. Yes. My mom and your siblings have been a godsend.
Deidre, Carolyn, Nellie, your mother.
Yeah, all of them.
Always took care of the kids.
I think John Kevin, shout out to him, because I think that year he drove halfway to pick up the kids.
He did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
I mean, he didn't take care of them, but he drove. He drove. Yeah.
Oh, I love my brother.
Yeah,
so,
they're awesome.
Yes. So, it's just, even then, like we went on dates that week and we hung out, went different places in Atlanta, but we had to have that one-on-one time.
Okay, so this question, I have no idea. So maybe you guys talked about this. It says something about spiritual blindness. How does spiritual blindness, which I've never heard of this term in my life, play a part in marriage problems and divorce? What is spiritual blindness? And can a Christian become spiritually blind?
100%.
So what was that about?
Spiritual warfare.
Come back next week where we continue the conversation about marriage and answer some marriage questions. We define what the spiritual blindness is all about. And Philip confesses something that he has been very private about concerning his first marriage. So come back next week. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week and a phenomenal weekend. See ya. Thank you so much for listening to Virago 24/7. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and please give us 5-star ratings. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Virago24_7 and on Facebook at Virago24/7. And just connect with us and share your story. We'd love to hear from you.